Hi everyone, welcome back to Kubrick Corner with me, Sean Wilson. Happy New Year, although it might be a bit late for that. Apologies, I haven't done one of these video reviews in a while, but the reason being that the exhibition industry, as far as cinemas go, is obviously in complete turmoil, has been in turmoil for all of 2020, pretty much, as far as coronavirus is concerned. And now, as far as 2021 is concerned, we don't really know what the future uh, currently holds, what we're moving towards, what the current state of affairs is in terms of cinemas reopening all worldwide, both in, in UK and America and all around the world as well. So, and what we're currently seeing is a strange situation, at least from where I am in the UK, whereby you have these highly touted movies that initially appeared to have some kind of a theatrical release strategy planned, and which are now being picked up by streaming because there are no other outlets through which to show these movies. And what that does to an extent is it democratizes the process. It allows movies to come into the home and for you to access them more easily. Although I have my doubts as to the effect of streaming on one's psychology when one watches movies, but I'll do a separate video on my Kubrick Corner channel about that. But for now, I'm here to talk to you about Judas and the Black Messiah, which is the new film from director Shaka King, who doesn't make his directorial debut with this. He has directed feature films and TV shows before this, but he's, to all intents and purposes, this is the project that is going to get him known. It's a really, really striking, really interesting movie. And one of the things is that having gone through essentially nearly 3 or 4 months of not very much happening in terms of movie releases. I mean, we've had things like Mank on Netflix, and then we obviously had Wonder Woman, which was originally meant to have a theatrical release in the UK, and then that all got scuttled and it all got very, very confused. But in between, I've kind of felt that we've been getting a lot of propositions, cinematic propositions that have kind of haven't really delivered, either in terms of us being able to watch them on the big screen or in terms of their dramatic potential. And I've really been waiting for probably about 3 or 4 months now for a properly good dramatic movie to really grab me by the lapels and really seize my attention. And Judas and the Black Messiah is definitely, as I said, directed by Shaka King, based on the true story of the Black Panther leader Fred Hampton, brilliantly played in the film by Daniel Kaluuya from Get Out. It's he was the deputy chair of the Black Panther militant group, or as he describes them in the film, not a revolutionary group, who are activists for Black Lives Matter and activists for change, and as I said, activists for revolution. And in the film, what happens is there is a separate character called Bill O'Neill, played by Lakeith Stanfield, also from Get Out, who is a carjacker who is essentially cornered by the FBI. This really creepy FBI agent, really well played by Jesse Plemons. And he is basically given a deal, which is you will spend several years in prison, or you can infiltrate the Black Panther group and you can feed us back intel on that, because in as far as the FBI is concerned, the Black Panthers were the greatest threat to American democracy in the late 1960s when the film starts, and the FBI presided over by a very ghoulish, sinister J. Edgar Hoover, played by a near unrecognizable Martin Sheen, who does one of those things that Martin Sheen does do, which he flip-flops between like more liberal roles like in the West Wing and really kind of creepy emblems of kind of bureaucratic control as he does here. So what happens is you get essentially two narratives, two character narratives on diverging paths. At the start of the movie, you have Fred Hampton. It's really understandably fired up by the grotesque spectacle of racial inequality in America, and he is attempting to inspire his followers to really kind of take up arms and to really address this. And on the other hand, you have somebody who was the Lakeith Stanfield character, who was something of a down and out. At the beginning, we see him impersonating an FBI officer, and then this is what then leads him to being collared by the FBI. And he then starts to, by feeding this information back to the FBI, he starts to live the good life. He starts to be given nice cars, nice clothes. He's wined and dined in restaurants, but crucially, he is in servitude it is a role of servitude. He is enthralled to this FBI agent who can basically take everything away from him at any one moment and throw him into prison. So that narrative is going on. Then you have the Fred Hampton narrative coming on. You understand that these characters will eventually crisscross at some point. And it's a really confidently handled film. It's really beautifully atmospherically directed. There's an early shot when we're first introduced to Lakeith Stanfield prior to him going into this bar and posing as an FBI agent, where he leans against a wall with his hat down, which is really kind of noirish and really moody and really arresting. But what I liked about it was that it's not a histrionic film. It's not melodramatic. It's got a very, very steady sense of pace and atmosphere to it, despite the fact that it's clearly very impassioned and it's dealing with subject matter that is very raw and very angry. The pacing to the movie is actually very deliberate. There are eruptions of violence, but I think they're well measured, and they're well measured in terms of what they're underscoring within the narrative. But what you have essentially is that the Fred Hampton character starting to realize across the course of the film that, you know what, revolutions, as he describes it, maybe militancy might be another word, has consequences. And there is a woman that he falls in love with, played by Dominique Fishback, who's really, really good. She deserves just as much attention as the two leads. She's really good, and she is the humanizing element as far as he's concerned, because she then gets pregnant with his child, and then he then at one point goes to prison. Then he realizes that because she is having his child, that there are actual stakes involved here. There are consequences to so-called revolutions, which can then potentially start to consume those that you love, those who follow you. And there is basically a responsibility in terms of delivering this kind of rhetoric. There are physical consequences to this, whereas the Lakeith Stanfield's character is kind of going the opposite direction. He's being wined and dined, but he is effectively losing his soul. He is the Judas of the title, and he finds himself in this increasingly difficult moral quagmire as far as the FBI is concerned, because he is another a black character who is effectively being turned against the Black Panther movement. And I think it's the narrative is really well plotted. I think the direction is really skillfully assured, and it allows us to breathe in the details of the characters. It allows us to live with them, to understand them. Again, essentially these two characters played by Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield. It's interesting because I read an article from Polygon, which is a website that I really admire, and they do really, really good, really in-depth film reviews. And they were actually one of the few outlets that were criticizing the film. The movie is by and large got very, very good reviews. It's now being kind of fated as a potential Oscar contender for 2021. But they suggested that it wasn't all that clear why the narrative would be constructed from the point of view of the Lakeith Stanfield character. Why would we attempt to get to know Fred Hampton through an external medium? And I thought, well, that's entirely the point. It's underscoring the moral rot at the center of the movie. I mean, really, the Lakeith Stanfield character is the one that's at the center of the drama, and it's through his essentially selling his soul that we get to realize the magnitude of the horror of what's going on. And that underscores the air of corruption and bureaucratic that bureaucratic stench and that racial inequality at the center of American society is depicted in the film. Man is basically being turned against man in order to favor in order to favor a kind of FBI ideology. And that, as I thought that was really well articulated in the film. So I didn't agree with that Polygon article, but I think it was a really well written review. And it's interesting to see someone fighting against the tide when the movie has got generally really, really impeccable reviews. So I think it's a really good, robust, dramatically sturdy, really well acted movie. Keep an eye out for it in the UK. Again, I could go into release date details, but in all honesty, that kind of stuff is chopping and changing so much at the moment. If I give a release date now, it will very likely change in the not too distant future. And also in terms of how the movie might potentially reach us might change as well. So look out for it. It's Judas and the Black Messiah from Warner Brothers, essentially starring Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield. It's a really, really terrific atmospheric piece of work, and I recommend that you go and check it out. If you've been deprived of really good, gripping drama with topical and real life undercurrents, go and watch this. And as ever, don't forget to drop me a comment here at Kubrick Corner, and I'll see you soon. Bye.